All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating spiritual framework from Hanshi Deena Naidu, and it's all about categorizing human beings into different soul levels. It's a pretty unique and sometimes challenging way to look at why we all act the way we do. So, let's get into it.
So right off the bat, you've got this massive question, right? I mean, with almost 8 billion of us on the planet, every single person with their own quirks and their own beliefs, how on earth could you even begin to spot these different stages of soul evolution? Well, according to this framework, there's actually a way. Let's break it down.
Okay, so to really get a handle on these different levels, the first thing we have to do is think about the nature of consciousness itself, and then where we as individual souls fit into that big picture.
So here's the fundamental idea, the core premise. The thinking is that consciousness, the big C, is this one unified thing. But, and this is a big but, the individual souls like you and me who are experiencing it, we're all at totally different points in our journey. A good way to picture it is like an ocean. The ocean is one big entity, right? But it's made up of countless waves, and every single wave is at a different point in its cycle. It creates this really interesting dynamic, this tension between this big, universal unity and these very distinct individual differences.
Okay, so what does this journey actually look like? How is it structured? Well, this framework lays it all out in 5 distinct levels of soul evolution. You could almost think of it like a spiritual ladder.
And here they are. It all starts with what's called a new soul. From there, it said you progress to a young soul, then mature, then teacher, and finally, you reach the master soul level. It's a whole spiritual roadmap. For this explainer, though, we're going to focus right on that starting line, the new soul.
All right, let's zoom in on level 1. What exactly is a new soul according to this framework?
Okay, so a new soul is described as a soul that's having its very first go-around in a human body, ever. Its nature is called unrefined, basically because it hasn't had the chance to develop those, divine characteristics yet. Think of it like a total blank slate, just starting to figure out the rules of being human. Now, this is where it gets pretty intense. The source links some really specific and frankly challenging behaviors to this stage. We're talking about things like getting involved in gangs, theft, robbery, even the possibility of committing extreme acts with zero remorse. And on top of that, a real lack of the stuff we value, compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, respect. It's a very stark profile for sure. And the source doesn't pull any punches with its language. The behavior is described as beastly, and it says it can even escalate into demonic tendencies. I mean, wow! That kind of phrasing really hammers home that unrefined idea we talked about, right? It suggests a soul that's just running on pure, raw, undeveloped impulse.
So if you're dealing with this kind of intense profile, what do you do? Well, the source actually gives some pretty practical advice on how you should interact with people who might fit this description.
And the advice really splits in two, depending on the situation. On one hand, if this person is a family member, the text suggests that you might be able to gradually educate them. But, and this is a big but, if you're not connected to them personally, the advice is totally different. It says you've got to maintain your distance, basically for your own protection. But it's not all on us. The framework also says there are bigger forces at play. We're talking about external things, like our own human laws, and something it calls divine intervention. These are seen as other key factors that help these souls learn and evolve. Okay, this brings us to a huge concept, karma. But here's the twist. The way this framework describes karma working for a new soul, it's really, really unusual. The timing is everything here, so get this. According to the source, karma doesn't even apply during a new soul's first life. It's like a grace period, a free pass. Then, after that first life, the soul goes to this afterlife place for some education. It's only when it comes back for a second life and has evolved into what's called a young soul that the whole law of karma finally switches on. And when karma does finally kick in, whoa, the source claims it hits with incredible force. The consequences for this new young soul are apparently amplified by 10 times, a tenfold impact. The source has a great way of putting it. The young soul is akin to a teenager in karmic terms. They're just learning the rules of the game, but the stakes are unbelievably high. And that tenfold impact, it isn't just a one-and-done thing. Nope, it's apparently spread out over the next 10 lifetimes. Talk about a long-term lesson in cause and effect. So there you have it. That's the basic framework for the journey of a new soul. It lays out this incredibly specific spiritual path, and it even includes this really unique grace period from karma.
And that just leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it? If a system like this were real, what would that mean for our own ideas about personal responsibility, about justice, and about our own potential for growth? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.